Good evening and welcome to Network. Tonight I'll be your host, standing in for Siphumelele Zondi. My name is Refilwe Moiloa. In the show tonight we'll be discussing social media etiquette as it relates to the Gaza conflict and the recently published Ask Africa Icon Brands survey. We are of course live. You can find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter, and our email address is newsnetwork@sabc.co.za. Let's start with your social and media technology news. On Thursday, Minister Naledi Pandor got a chance to engage with stakeholders in the science and technology fields in South Africa. The Science and Technology Minister stressed that the industry was in a healthy state and that things were looking up for the future. The minister also introduced initiatives to attract young people to a career in the sciences. Here is Network's Tsile Kaswane with the details.
Things are looking up for science students and institutions in South Africa. This is according to the Minister of Science and Technology, Naledi Pandor. Her department has a total appropriation of 6.2 billion rands for the current financial year. Most of this money helps fund research institutions, including universities.
The support we're giving to postdocs, because that's very important. What we really want to do is both prepare young people with senior degrees, but key is to keep them in the system so that we advance the research potential that South Africa has.
A career in the sciences has for some time now not been rewarding in South Africa. Students will find it difficult to find employment. Minister Pandor says her department is hard at work to make it worthwhile to pursue a career in the sciences.
We've got to up the game there and ensure that we put science and technology in society. I'd like science to be at the forefront of the thinking of young people. I want it to excite our society. I want the public to identify with science.
The first step to a career in the sciences begins with acquiring knowledge regarding the field. On Friday, Minister Pandor officially launched this year's National Science Week at the University of the Free State. Under the theme of Today's Science, Tomorrow's World, the country's future scientists will get the chance to engage in various science-related events that will help inspire them to invest in science, engineering and technology.
Network attended the opening of a data center for Vodafone Business in Midrand this last Tuesday. This is the company's 8th data center. Let's find out what is so special about this facility.
Vodafone Business launched their data center on Tuesday, July the 29th. What exactly is a data center and what is its significance?
A data center is a facility where people store information, mainly computer information that sits on computers. The data center is a facility that has got very, very good power. It's got very good redundancy, so it never has a power outage.
In order to operate, data centers need immense electrical power. This particular one took about 3 years to build and is powered by Eskom.
We started this facility about close to 3 years ago. The real big plan is enough Eskom power. So we're going to plan a long time ahead and make sure that Eskom has the power facilities in time for when we launch. Because the power is the lifeblood of the data center. If there's no power, we don't have a data center.
The 3,000 meter square data center is the 8th such facility to be built at Midrand's Vodaworld. Vodacom says that this move was prompted by the influx migration to cloud computing, hence having customers wanting a more agile information technology environment.
The data center that we've built will give government the ability to serve their customers in terms of e-government. It's cloud-led kind of strategy from our side.
Vodacom rival MTN built this data center in 2011.
South African retail giant Mr. Price has been trending in the IT news platform this week. This is due to reports of the company's virtual mobile network launch. The Next Insight gives more details on this.
Mr. Price is joining the mobile technology world. The popular South African retailer launched their virtual mobile network operator, making it the first retail in the country to do so. Reports from online tech magazine Tech Central say that Mr. Price is not keen to talk yet about its strategy behind its MVNO called Mr. P Mobile, though it has confirmed that it has launched service commercially to its customers. Mobile virtual network operating means borrowing network infrastructure from an actual mobile operator. In this instance, Mr. Price will be piggybacking off Cell C's network. Though mobile virtual network operating is big in the Western world, it hasn't quite taken off in South Africa, with Virgin Mobile being one other company to benefit from this system in the country.
French mobile network phone provider Orange has announced Wi-Fi expansion plans in Cape Town. Orange already offers Wi-Fi in the city, but the new plan will include townships. Apart from creating these Wi-Fi hotspots, Orange will also launch retail outlets in the country. These stores will be in 3 provinces, namely Gauteng, KwaZulu-Natal and the Western Cape. Orange operates in much of Africa and sponsors some of the big events like the African Nations Cup. Rwanda has become the second sub-Saharan African country to migrate to digital terrestrial television, or DTT. At midnight on Thursday, the 31st of July, Rwanda switched off analog TV signals. The East African country followed neighbor Tanzania in heeding the digital migration call made by the International Telecommunication Union.
As the cut-off date for digital terrestrial television migration draws nearer by the day, most African countries seem to be moving on snail mode. The International Telecommunications Union set the DTT migration deadline for June 2015, and only 2 sub-Saharan African countries are ahead of schedule thus far, with Rwanda having just switched off from analog television signals on Wednesday. Rwanda's Utilities Regulatory Authority said that the country's digital TV coverage is currently at 95%. The East African country began analog switch-off at its capital city, Kigali, in January this year. The migration was preceded by yet another East African country, Tanzania. This country started migrations in 2006 and completed it in December of 2012. South Africa is still lagging behind in the digital migration race. Some even worry whether the country will make the cut-off date.
Recent research from China showing that Apple's iPhone could be a potential security breach thus has prompted more research conducted in the United States, and the findings were similar to those done by the Chinese. The next insert explains this further.
Researchers have warned iPhone users of easy access to personal data safety. This comes after the discovery of some backdoor entries into the popular device's iOS operating system. Regardless of all the negative reports, Apple maintains that all their handsets are well secured.
Well, if Apple has a key, then it's theoretically possible that the NSA or a hacker could duplicate that key, copy that key, figure out how the lock works and break it.
Demonstrations posted on YouTube by a researcher with the name of Jonathan Ziziarski show how messages, contacts, and photos can be withdrawn from iPhones and iPads through methods unpublicized at the time. Apple says that they have designed their iOS so that its diagnostics do not compromise users' privacy and security.
Seats on the halfway line of any field sport have long been regarded as the best in the house, but soon seats that run along the sides of the field may just be where you want to be. Samsung has developed a mobile bank of seats which run along the touchline on rails. Called the Slide Liner, these seats offer 4 fans an unrivaled view of the game. The Slide Liner is controlled by an operator with a joystick and can move at up to 20 kilometers per hour. And of course, Samsung has linked this new technology to their mobile devices.
Yeah, we've built our technology into the Slide Liner, so you've got a tablet there that you can actually take photos, you can interact socially. We want people to tell the world about their experience, and they also get some stats and so forth about the game, what's going on. So literally not only the best seat in the house up and down, but the most connected seat as well.
Stay tuned. After the break, we have Pritesh Soraj in studio to discuss social media and whether people and the organizations they represent can be viewed separately.
The shortage of nurses places those nurses who are working under such pressure.
To have one registered nurse looking after a ward full of patients, of over 40 patients, is unreasonable.
But Africa has made tremendous progress. In the year 2012, there were only 50,000 children, 50,000 children too many, but only 50,000 children that died of measles in the whole of Africa compared to 330,000 in the year 2000.
For all your health issues, join Dr. Sello every Saturday, 9 to 10 a.m. CAT.
Welcome back. The ongoing Gaza conflict has everyone voicing their opinions. Social media is providing a platform for everyone from the Israeli Defense Force to Hamas to Joe Public in the street to have their say. But some of these posts have themselves become the news. Take the Twitter post by the Vice-Chancellor of Wits University, for example. Professor Adam Habib tweeted a picture it has since been established was actually of a body under rubble during the Syrian conflict and attributed to what was happening in Gaza. The tweet reads, "The consequence of Obama's defense of Israel's war in Gaza. How could we have allowed him to talk at Madiba's funeral?" Another much talked about social media post has the ruling ANC distancing itself from its writer and swiftly. Renee Smith, who was in fact a volunteer at the ANC's Western Cape office and not affiliated with them full-time as its social media manager, posted a picture on her Facebook page of Adolf Hitler captioned, "Yes, man, you were right," this referring to Hitler's dislike of Jewish people. Ms. Smith has since deleted this post. Here to talk about social media controversies related to the Gaza conflict and how to manage them is Pritesh Swaraj. He's the CEO and Chief Innovation Analyst at the Product of the Year. Pritesh, thank you very much for joining us in studio today.
Thanks for having me on.
All right. So what would you say in describing the current social media activity over the conflict in Gaza?
I think one of the things we're seeing is there's a lot of rhetoric on both sides of the fence. What we're not really seeing is a lot of people coming together and saying that we want to promote unity. There's a small faction who are saying this. In general, though, what you tend to find is there's a lot of people either promoting the Palestinian cause or the Israeli cause. And this is because if you look at this conflict, it's not just pure political, it's also a cultural issue. And when you bring culture into the fray, it actually creates a lot more tension between the two groups.
Sure. And so, I mean, this is an emotionally charged issue for everyone around the world. And, with, the tweets that we've just read, it brings up the question of social media etiquette. I mean, these people were posting in their personal capacity, but, it's taken a different turn. Let's talk about that.
Yeah, I think one of the key things is we have to realize that our personal brands these days are really, really tightly linked to the organizations that we belong to, whether it's the ANC or a Wits University. The reality is when we post, people don't see us as individuals. They see us as representatives of the larger organization that we belong to. When we do make the mistake of saying certain things that do not actually link to the greater organization, then we tend to find that there's a great uproar on social media.
Right. And now because of historical reasons, South Africans by and large would tend to sympathize with the Palestinian cause. So for any organization, a country facing stiff opposition, on social media platforms, how does this counter negative reporting?
Well, one of the issues that you have is that if on a social media platform, if you hear a lot of negative stuff about your brand or about the country that you belong to, the only way to really negate this is to have a look at it from, one, an emotional perspective, because we're purely emotional at the first stage, and lots of these conflicts are emotional. And then post the emotional stage, try and bring in some logical reasons why you support that emotional standpoint. Only in this case can you actually find that you'll negate the negative news that's in the society.
All right. And I mean, do you find that due to social media, young people, as the most active users of these platforms, are, starting to engage more into political issues?
They are, because one of the things is political issues were generally the domain of the older members. It's a grey-head equity part of society. But what we're finding these days is that younger people are looking at causes that they feel passionate about, causes that didn't exist when their parents were even born, and supporting that really, really strongly on social media and letting people know how they feel about it.
All right. And so what would your final words be, Pritesh, on just social media etiquette and protecting oneself because you don't just represent yourself, as it's been proven?
Yeah, I think one of the key things, if you're on social media, you understand that you own your own news channel in a way. You own your own media channel. And if you're the curator of your own media channel, you're also the curator of it in terms of your own personal brand. Be careful about what you're saying. Stand up for the causes that you're going to be supporting out there. but be careful not to do it in a way that ruins your personal brand and the brand of any organization that you belong to.
All right, thank you so very much for your time. That was Pritesh Swaraj, CEO and Chief Innovation Specialist at the Product of the Year. A few weeks back, we told you that Chinese tech brand HTC is restructuring in South Africa. With that, they told us that they are launching the One M8 smartphone. Producer Nombuso Mahlangu has been playing around with the HTC's new flagship device, and she says the choice is as good a phone to relaunch HTC back into the country.
This is the HTC One M8 smartphone with a slick aluminum cover. The aluminum cover protects from simple scratches and other unforeseen incidents that would often occur with other phones. The downside to aluminum is that the phone can be a bit slippery. Now, a lot of parents would worry that their phone could be stolen by their kids when they're not looking. A great feature that HTC has added here is the parent control mode, which ensures that the phone is left alone when parents step out of the room. The back of the One M8 has two 4-megapixel cameras and uses ultra-pixel technology. While it takes good photographs, this is not good enough compared to other phones in the same range. HTC has decided not to include optical image stabilization on this one, which then ends up reducing the quality of the photographs you're getting. What it does allow you to do are screen grabs, even on videos you have shot and are watching on the phone. The Android quad-core processor makes multitasking feel like single tasking, which is good for organizing apps that are convenient for any lifestyle. There are added features that have to be uploaded, like television remote control. Having to upload these can be a bit annoying. The HTC One M8 is a good return to the South African market for the company. It ticks all the right boxes. The phone is about 7,000 Rand.
After the ad break, we'll be crossing to our Pretoria studios to discuss Ask Africa Icon Brands benchmark survey results it published last Friday. This is South Africa's broadest brand benchmark based on over 15,000 interviews across more than 150 product categories, and it's conducted by the Target Group Index.
A very warm welcome to you at home. This is Afro Showbiz News, the show that brings you all things art and entertainment from around the African continent. Tunisian rapper Ben Ahmed, better known as Clay BBJ, has been released after spending 2 weeks in prison. The arrest came after he was accused of insulting security and violating public morals. The songs sung by the artists criticized the current situation in Tunisia. That's Afro Showbiz. Catch us every Saturday evening at 7:30.
Welcome back. Now, these tech brands behind me have been found to be South Africa's most popular for the year 2014. This is according to the Ask Africa Icon Brand Survey conducted by the Target Group Index, or TGI, where over 15,000 people were interviewed. To speak to us about the country's most iconic technology brands is the director at the TGI, Maria Petusis. Maria, thank you for joining our network and welcome.
Good evening.
Now, as a start, just please explain to us what exactly an icon brand is.
Sure. As you mentioned in the introduction, Ask Africa compiles a survey by interviewing 15,000 South African respondents across South Africa's nation. An icon brand is not a popularity contest. It's not a brand which is just popular and voted by the South African nation, but it's a brand which is used and used most loyally and represents South Africa's broad landscape. It's a very credible measurement because we survey, as we mentioned, 15,000 respondents, representative of 23 million South African consumers. So it's definite credibility in the results.
All right, and just, there was a distinction in the, the branding in terms of others were icon brands and others were emerging platinum icon brands. Let's talk about those.
That's right. It's really difficult to become an iconic brand. In totality, we measure over 8,000 brands in the survey. Only 31 of those are iconic. What it means to be iconic, it's a brand used and used most loyally across South Africa's Rainbow Nation. The platinum brands almost made the accolade. They may have the score, but unfortunately they don't have penetration in all 4 racial groups. So they're just there, they're probably the icon brands of tomorrow, but the measurement is really stringent, so they probably make it next time.
All right. And did the people that were interviewed, provide certain reasons, why specific brands were their favorites?
We didn't ask them specifically for reasons. However, if we delve into the data, there are a couple of reasons which isolate or make an iconic brand its status. Those are, for example, that of reaching a broad retail landscape. So it's a brand which needs to be accessible to the South African population. There are also brands which innovate, and I think in the telecommunications industry it's definitely a hygiene. There are also brands which really understand their consumers in terms of understanding the nuances between different consumers who use their brands and products. And it's also brands which don't just appeal to consumers based on a product need, but they do represent their values as well and resonate with them on an emotional level.
All right. Now, let's discuss the fact that MTN came out as the biggest winner by leading in 2 tech categories, namely Best Internet Service Provider and Best Telecoms. How?
They've done exceptionally well for the past 3 years. It's a very competitive market, as you know, the telecommunications industry. For the past 3 years, MTN has been an icon brand. Vodacom, on the other hand, has been an icon brand for the past 2 years prior to the 2014 measurements. This year, they're a platinum brand, and MTN has really kept its winning position. I think they really challenge what they do and how they do it and really connect with South African consumers.
All right, great. Thank you so very much, Maria, for discussing, the Icon Brand Survey. Thank you for being a part of our network tonight.
Thank you.
And that brings us to the end of today's show. You can find us on SABC Network on Facebook and Twitter. Our email address is newsnetwork@sabc.co.za. We leave you with a recent Swedish study on the reasons you may want to reconsider the amount of time you spend on Facebook. From me and the rest of the team that makes this all possible, thank you for being a part of our network tonight. Goodbye.